Game 150 is a line. What a pickup he's been. Charlie Cameron from the boundary. Lohman ignores Joe and goes into the goal square to the waiting arms of Kalachi, who gets the adoration of the Gabba crowd. And it's a free and advantage, and Lachie Neale will just wander downhill and drive that advantage home. Danaher thought about giving it off. He trusts his right boot, and this time he gets the job done. They've had some great wins, this club, but none better than this. They were 30 points down at quarter time.
The Brisbane Lions Fancast is back with JB and Patrick. It is a Sunday night, the day after a pretty disappointing and frustrating loss. Our second time to the Giants this year, unfortunately. And look, there's plenty to talk about. Was it the loss we needed to have? Is it the kick we needed just before finals time? Has it completely ruined our chances of top 2, top 4? Who knows? We're about to nut it all out in this podcast. It's all thanks to hopandbrewtours.com.au and Crisp Communications, crispcoms.co. Round 22 against the Giants. And we went down by 3 goals after a almost flawless first quarter. Aside from hitting the post 3 times, there was not too much to dislike about it. And it just sort of went from there. And very similar to the first time we played the Giants earlier in the year, the second half is where the Giants really put the foot down and, well, got the win.
Yeah, they sure did win, the Giants. Nearly called them the Gold Coast. Don't know why.
Well, the Gold Coast won as well.
Yeah, they sure did somehow. That first quarter was pretty irresistible. But 7 behinds, 2 that missed entirely. That kind of really put it fucked us, basically, to be perfectly frank. We were hearing that it was basically like the difference in contested possessions and stuff like that was as bad as the Port Adelaide-Sydney game the week before. And, there's another reality where we're 60 points ahead at quarter time and they are completely dead. But, not to be. Yeah, what a weird game. But, leading into it, there was some weird stuff going on in terms of ins and outs. Like things, again, that are being kept close to the chest that we're not really hearing too much about. So Joyce was back and probably had the game everyone was sort of fearful he would have a while back.
Yeah.
Brucey's out with a stress fracture, so that's annoying, but maybe that's a bit more reason as to why he'd been the sub previously and why he's sort of not been playing as large a role. And then Hipwood also missed again.
Yeah,
that groin soreness. So
that was the surprise, and I really hope it is a case of the medical team and the coaching team being super cautious with Eric, knowing that we definitely need him for finals, despite what David King may think.
What's David King on about?
He seems to think we're a better team without Hipwood in the lineup. And
okay.
that was
fair enough.
Reactionary based off us just flogging St Kilda last weekend. And he seemed to think it was like if Hipwood's in the team, then Logan Morris doesn't get a good shot at it, and he didn't really consider Henry Smith.
I heard Hodgie say that during the week, and I basically turned off the round table immediately after that because I was like, this is insanity.
Yeah.
But, whatever. Yeah, I have a theory about Hipwood and Danaher and Smith that I hope is correct, which we can go into later.
Sure.
It's not super crazy. It's just like cool more than anything, or like would be a good idea if it's what they're doing. We had Joyce coming in, and is that it? Revs was out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, shit. So not quite what we kind of thought it would be. I thought when Joyce came back, and it was probably just because like who else would kind of go into the sub role? Like we had some chat where we thought Sharpie might be like a good idea for it, but he just seems to be like in a bit of twos purgatory at the moment. So that is what it is. But yeah, they had like, funnily enough, I mentioned like 3 players last week. It was like Briggs, Fonte, and McMuffin, and they were all out.
Yep.
So it was like hilarious that was sort of the extent of my knowledge, and Callum Brown, obviously, who wasn't there. Haven't actually looked into that, but here we are. So Briggs being out, I was licking my lips.
We all were.
And I think in the first quarter, we were like, this is great. And then something weird happened.
Yeah, that was possibly the most disappointing aspect of the game, is that that game was there for the taking for Owen. He's been putting together a really good patch of form, and he's in the All-Australian discussion. It's sort of like him and Tristan Cherry are like duking it out.
The outsiders, yeah.
But he was rucking up against Lockie Keefe and did not take advantage of that much help in the way we all thought he could and should, which is probably, like I said, probably the most disappointing aspect of that game.
It's a shame because we've seen him do so well on, like, he's made Tim English look like a peanut. He's made what's-his-face last week look like a peanut. He's, like, gone toe-to-toe pretty well with Max Gawn. It's just like, what? Like, it was right there. It's a dude that hasn't played a game and is, traditionally a defender, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And, fair enough, he probably went in with a strategy to kind of negate more than anything, and it did kind of look like the old, like, just trying to go under the drop of the ball and let the kind of midfielders run off their back. But, like, it was so frustrating. Like, it was so, like, he was kind of not getting the clearances we know he gets, and he wasn't really having an effect around the ground to the point where, like, Keefe was actually working well the opposite way. It didn't quite work out for them either, but, like, it was nothing more than breaking even.
Yeah.
And it should have been so much more than that.
And I really thought, especially in the back half when GWS had the momentum, and, like, historically that's when OE will usually take it upon himself and start grabbing it out of the ruck contest and just booting it forward 60 or just smacking it with that big left hand of his, and that just didn't seem to happen, and it was really, really strange.
It was a bit like it's weird because I think the first quarter was so positive in terms of, like, some of the things that happened, and I thought the third quarter was super positive too, where we nearly kept them to 2 single point terms. They just kicked 2 goals in red time, which is, like, annoying. I thought they got a little bit of luck in the second quarter, to start the quarter off having not won a clearance, getting 2 free kicks out of the center, and then a free kick that is not a free kick right in front of goal. It's just a bit of a pisser. Like, it just gets you straight back into the game on the back of us, like, doing some dumb stuff. And, like, it's by no means the sort of thing that would have changed the game, but it's like, how can Toby Green be given holding the ball when Berry shrugs him and he's on the ground?
I know.
It doesn't make sense. And a similar one with the one that Starcevic gave away on Brent Daniel, where he doesn't extend the arms, he just braces, and that's kind of the rule as far as we've known it forever, is you can do that. And, it's just like a couple of quick goals and they're back in the game, and then they started getting on top in contests. And, Fagan said it at half time. He sort of said, like, we're just not, like, we need to, or it might have been after the game, sorry, where he just said that we lost the kind of fight and lowered our colours a little bit in the midfield. So, it's frustrating because we're in a bit of a predicament here where if, like, the established players like, Dunkley and Neil and O kind of do lower their colours a little bit, then we're relying on youth to really kind of pick up. And, when you got Kyle Lohmann kind of missing shots that he's got, and, like, Logan Morris missing shots at goal, and then fucking guys like Dunkley and Charlie Cameron missing shots at goal, and, it's just, you expect that with the young ones, and you can't, like, quite rely on them at this point in time. But GWS also played pretty bloody well. So
GWS were really good, and, if it wasn't for, I guess, like, it's just the tightness of the season, how crazy it is, and the huge ramifications and impact it has on our finals hopes and top 2 and all that sort of stuff, I wouldn't be as worried about this loss. But because it has such a significant impact on where we may finish, and it's up to us now to win our last 2 games and hope that more results potentially fall our way, to just stay in at top 4. That's probably I'm not too worried about the nature of the loss, really, but the impact that it has is probably the most annoying and concerning thing.
Yeah, I think I agree with it entirely. Like, it's the sort of thing where if we weren't sitting here with however many losses we got, 7, if we'd had, say, 4 losses in the whole season, and this was our 5th loss, you'd be like, yeah, there's enough there, because I think we can beat GWS. Like, they're there, they're beatable, we can beat them. We just need to play better. Like, the expected score was ridiculous, and I know that is what it is.
It had us winning by, like, 5 or 6 goals.
Yeah, so I think it was about 93-60. So they overperformed significantly, and we underperformed by a mile.
And they were so accurate again, and it wasn't like they were just draining those shots from outside 50. It was just, they were deadly accurate, and we were anything but. We ended up with, how many more scoring shots do we have? I suppose it
a million?
Yeah, it closed towards the end, but for a good while we had like 8 or 9 more scoring shots up until like the last couple of minutes, where Darcy Jones kicked those 2 goals, and it just sort of it sucked all the air right out, and you knew it was done at that stage.
It was done. Like, it was absolutely done at that point in time because we just couldn't get any kind of momentum back at that point in time. So it was a bit of a shame because before the game leading in, there was a lot of talk about how we'd let the kind of fewest runs of 4 goals in probably the last 6 or 8 weeks or something. It was twice, and we did it twice in that game.
Yeah.
So it's just, and it's, they can get on top. And, I basically kind of called it. Hogan is not a great physical matchup for us. But that said, if you told me before the game that Hogan and Green were going to kick 4 goals collectively, I'm taking that.
Yeah.
Absolutely taking that. And Toby Green, like, his opponent will factor heavily in the votes, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes.
Because, we were saying last week Starcevich played probably his best game we'd seen him play, and he's done it better.
Yeah, well, he kept Jack Higgins to 3/5 of fuck all last week, and he's done it to one of the absolute best in the competition this week. So yeah, he will definitely feature in the votes. But I said to you, as just as the game wrapped up, like, I just thought they won all the key matchups. Like Sam Taylor on Danaher, Bedford kept Neil pretty quiet. He still had mid-20s possession wise, but his clearance work was basically non-existent. I thought. Hogan, he kicked 3 goals on Harris, which is he's probably taken the chocolates in that battle, but it's considering he's had a 5-week run of 5 goals or more or whatever it is.
How much of a tease was his first goal?
Yeah, I know.
Like, that's a guy that has no idea what the hell is going on, and he just somehow manages to like trickle it over the line. Goodness me. And yeah, I think because it's winning, like, funny, like talking like the Hogan Harris thing. I made a bit of a comparison to Lynch and Fletcher.
Yeah.
From back ye old feckin' ages ago, but Sam Taylor's very much like him, and Danaher are kind of physically a bit similar.
Yeah.
And Sam Taylor just decided, like, nah, I'm not losing this matchup, and didn't in the end. Danaher was pretty not there. He was chasing the ball, trying to get up the ground. I think that's kind of good, given that he's not been rucking. But yeah, like there was some positive. Like Charlie Cameron was really good around the ground as well.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
and
really good.
And like, just if he hits that shot, I think there was 4. There was like Kyle Lohman missed 1, Logan Morris missed 1, Dunkley missed 1, Charlie Cameron missed 1. It was just like 4 more or less in a row, or either side of one of their goals. It sort of sticks in my mind as like a pretty pivotal time. But aside from that, like, it's hard to really say. Like, looking at the team, you're sort of like, well, who did actually play well?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was some at the time, because if you win the game, you kind of, it's sort of a bit like the Carlton game in the opening round, where like there was such good stuff happening, and then it kind of all gets a bit like, come on, guys. Like,
yeah.
Far out.
Yeah, very much so.
Dear.
Very much so. And I mean, obviously very similar as well. Amazing first quarter. Our ball movement, like, apart from the fact that we put scores on the board and still left some out there, our ball movement, our kicking was just really good for that first quarter before it all got shut down. And as you said, like, GWS were really good. We didn't help ourselves, and we definitely still could have and should have won that game. But GWS were very good, and they, like I said, they won their key matchups, smashed us in the middle. That's 2 times this year that Lachie Neale's had poor games against GWS, and 2 times they've made us look pretty foolish. So if we come up against them again in the finals, I'm hoping it's going to be redemption time then, a la 2022 against Melbourne, like where they smacked us around during the home and away, and we got them in the finals. So yeah, like I said, if it wasn't for the immediate ramifications for us on the ladder, then it would be a much easier loss to cop.
It's a funny stat line to go through and look at, hey, because we still won contested possessions and we still won turnover and stuff like that. And it's just like, they were just so much more efficient, like, in front of goal. And that's just the way that it is sometimes. I think it's the sort of thing where, like, everyone remembers when you have bad games kicking at goal. It's just the nature of it. You sort of don't really remember the times where you're like, oh yeah, like, what did we kick in the grand final? Like, really, really good.
Yeah.
Like, really good.
Yeah.
So it can sometimes just be like the luck of the draw. And, we were rolling a lot of snake eyes that game. I tell you what, like rolling a lot of snake eyes. And it's just like Cadman slotting him from the boundary. It's like, okay, cool. Sweet dude. But unfortunately, it's leading to, we've talked, not so much us, but we've talked about it being an insane season, but outed as like the greatest AFL season we've ever had, could be leading to a Sydney and Geelong top 2. And we all know how that panned out 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, honestly, I don't know. You wouldn't be surprised if half a dozen teams won the flag this year with just the way it's all been going. And now our absolute bogey team, Hawthorn, with their huge win today against Carlton, have found their way in the 8, which is probably the most scary prospect of it all.
Yeah. I mean, it looks worse given that we're sitting in 5th.
Yep.
But yeah, we haven't played it with the Gabba in years.
That's true, yeah. We'll see. We will see. But yeah, they've got some serious momentum on their side at the moment, and the way they played today, it's going to be hard to stop. Anyway, no point thinking about that at the moment. The Joyce coming back in, we spoke about that when he went out with a broken jaw, and we said, it could be 10 weeks. It could be, he could come back this week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and all of a sudden he's gone from TBC on the injury list to, yep, he's back playing.
Yeah.
I thought he had an all right game. I didn't think it was that poor. Like, he definitely, as the game wore on, it got worse. And we got to remember he's come back.
He's not alone there, alone. And also, it's like we saw how long it took Charlie Cameron to kind of like bounce back from like facial fractures and stuff. But also, so I got a question: are you allowed to have 2 people standing in the goal square at like a restart, like a 6-6-6? I thought you were only allowed to have 1.
I mean, apparently you can. I think you have to. Like, you have to have one.
At least 1.
So maybe that's the rule, because, yeah, I do remember seeing that going, that's strange.
Yeah, because they were showing him and Riccardi doing the fucking ringer dosey-dos. And I'm just sort of sitting there going, like, why don't they just go, okay, we'll just put Joyce on Hogan? Like, just, if they want to dictate it, let them dictate it. And don't try to, like, outsmart them with it. Just keep it really simple and go, if you want to screw around, like, trying to bump people out of the way, just stand half a meter off him. Hogan, it's Hogan. How fast can he be?
I think that's
apparently a little bit, but
yeah. Well, that's what GWS have been trying to do, and manipulating the matchup to get the second key defender, and it's obviously been working for him. Like I said, he's been kicking bags every week. So yeah,
but I'm gonna harp back to it. Like, the physical profiles probably dictates. I would rather have had Joyce playing on Hogan. So maybe that's entirely insane, but I think it's the sort of thing that if Jack Payne was there.
If Jack Payne was there, he 100% would have been taking the Hogan matchup. So,
but then is that the sort of thing where Hogan's trying to go to Harris, or is he just?
I think he's sort of between a rock and a hard place there. So, I think he just had the luxury of being able to try and manipulate the matchup to go to Joyce. So, yeah, look, we can try and extricate.
I was half expecting him to try and punch Joyce in his jaw and then be like, it was negligible thing or whatever. But
yeah, sure.
Yeah, a bit like that. So it was the sort of game where I think in the first quarter and probably the first half, like just first half generally, because the first half was kind of largely positive. I was sort of thinking, like Henry Smith, and I messaged this to you. I said, like, yeah, Henry Smith and he'll be a bit unlucky to come out of the team when Hipwood comes back. And, Darragh Joyce is doing pretty all right, and maybe Jack Payne will struggle to kind of get back into the team. And by the end of the game, I'm like, oh, shit, we need Hipwood and Jack Payne back. Like, because we just need him back.
Yeah. So the Hipwood one, that is a bit of a strange one. I really hope it is a case of them being cautious because, last week Fagan said, he could have played this week. We just decided to be cautious with him. He'll be back next week. And then this week it's like, well, I thought he was right to play this week, so maybe it's a wait and see now. So, yeah, groins are obviously a tricky one. So I really, like I said, I really hope they are just being extra cautious and trying to keep him in cotton wool as much as they can and try and see if we can skate by without him until finals.
Which is a bit of a weird choice at this point of the season.
Well, yeah.
I was just hoping Henry Smith would score a goal just so that we can rip that Band-Aid off.
I know.
But not to be, because, my like insane theory is, are they resting Hipwood and then having obviously Henry Smith playing as the second ruck to freshen up Hipwood and Danaher for finals?
Very possibly as well, which if that is the case, I'm not too unhappy about that because, Danaher, we know, plays his best games when he's playing second ruck. Last week he didn't. He still had a great game. This week, it might have helped to have him as playing the backup ruck. But it's just going to be a wait and see, I think.
Yeah. So I think it's sort of, not much more we can really divulge about that. It was, they kind of took their moments a lot better than we did. So, which is annoying because moments are important.
Good to get have a decent showing from Will Ashcroft as well. He's easily his best game since coming back.
Yeah, he was a lot stronger in the contest, standing up a bit.
Yeah.
And I think it could be distorted a little bit with kind of how poor GWS were in the first quarter, because I think he got 18 touches or 16 touches in the first quarter. Something ridiculous. He was all over the place. But I'm happy to just see him continue to build and to stand up. I think it's good. His disposal was quite good. He's still a little bit quick on making the decisions. He's a bit
panicked,
sort of thing that, it's sort of, he just throws the ball onto the boot and he's got such a nice kick that you sort of just kick it to someone.
Yeah.
And I think that's also something completely different Dunkley needs to go to work on, because his kicks inside 50 is horrid.
Yeah, well, we've got a question about that a bit later on, and kicking's never been Dunkley's strong suit. That's just...
No, but you can go to work on it, and it's if it's not your strong thing, and you're getting outside ball because you can, and he's got the physical profile to do it. You got to be better.
Yeah,
you've got to train it. Go to work on your skill. Maybe that's something for the off season. But I think I said it last year for this year. I was like, can Dunkley go to kicking school? No more handball club. That shit's lame. Even Trelaw's learned to kick better.
Yeah, that's true.
So, did you want to do some votes, or is there anything else you want to divulge?
No, I think, I mean, a lot of it will be covered in questions as well. I guess just the loss, the nature of it, sort of where it sits, and what it means moving forward. But like I said, I'm still pretty buoyant, and still got a bit more faith in the Lions. And our luck had to run out at some point. And I did say, when did I say it? I wouldn't mind dropping a game before finals, sort of get it out of the system. But it is just the ramifications on top 2, top 4 that is obviously the worry with the way the season's panning out. So, like I said, all we can do is just win what's in front of us moving forward. Hopefully, the door opens up for us with other results going our way, but that's out of our hands. So, let's get into some votes for hoponbrewtours.com.au. Book yourself a half or a full day tour, and happy birthday to Jocelyn as well. It's her birthday today, who is one half of Hop On Brew Tours. So, happy birthday to you, Joss. Okay, votes. Stas, my 3. Ashcroft, the 2. And Bez, the 1 for me this week.
Yeah, nice. But I think Bez went a little bit under the radar, hey?
I thought, definitely. I thought, the times he went in the middle was pretty good, but he did a lot of important work on the half back and the wing.
Oh, that's good. I've gone Starcevich 3, Ashcroft 2, and I went Zorko 1.
Yeah.
Just because although Zorko was a little bit... It was one of those games, where it's a bit the risk reward, but he was largely pretty good. And I think when we were good, he was excellent.
I think GWS put a bit of time into Zorko as well. And I mean, any team that's coming up against Brisbane, there's obviously a few names you got to put on the whiteboard of who you got to try and quell, and Zorko's going to be one of them. But I thought all in all, they did really well. Like I said, the key matchups, I thought they won 85% of them. So. Bloody good on them. So
even in the end, ones because Darcy Wilmot was more or less playing on Darcy Jones.
Yeah.
And to just get the 2 goals at the end, Wilmot got no easy ball coming out of the back half either. So, Rayner tried.
Yes.
He about 85% of his touches were contested, but he just couldn't get the ball. Their pressure must have been so high because it was quite a fumbly game as well, and it was almost the perceived pressure was almost worse, I think. But I think there's enough there to suggest that it's not like doom and gloom. It's just a bit annoying not to win. And I think if you're annoyed not to win, that's far better than being like desolate, kind of like choke shit.
Well, that's it.
Even
like
though it kind of was a bit like it.
the first game against GWS, the feeling after that loss was much more devastating than it was right now. So, yeah, I think you just got to take that little win there and know that had things gone, slightly different, it would have been a much different result. And I know that's of little comfort, but it's just sort of what you got to latch on to now.
Yeah, I think I'd probably been overselling the idea of like just winning every game forever.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably a lot more difficult to actually do. And that can happen. So get to work. We got to win 2 games and hope for the best, really.
Yeah. All right, the Twos. Twos played the Giants as well. They played earlier on today, and it was almost the exact opposite in terms of the score. GWS got it to a pretty decent lead to begin with. Like the first quarter, they kicked 4-3, and then they kicked the first couple of goals of the second quarter as well. We ended up bringing it back to about even at half time. Had a 7-point lead at 3-quarter time, and then we just went bunter and put on 50 points in the last quarter, and they put on 2. So we ended up winning by 50 points, which was crazy.
So caveat this to saying what you said to me earlier on. Like, did I check the Twos? I forgot, obviously.
Yeah.
And you're like, don't, because you want to go in cold with me. So
yeah. Well, so
I immediately after I said that I hadn't looked, I was like, oh yeah, Levi was playing for them. Maybe some crazy shit happened.
Yeah, and what you found out? Did you?
No.
Okay. Well,
that's me using my 3 brain cells put together to try and figure out what it may or may not have been. I was sitting there going, so I did this for about 10 minutes. I was like, who's playing in the Twos? It's like, did Tunstall come back from the dead? Another umpire collision? Nah, these are all too like beige.
Yeah.
What do we got?
The story of the VFL was the fact that not only was Levi Ashcroft playing, but he put up some stupid numbers, like video game numbers, which is
I'm gonna actually check now.
Obviously, very exciting. I'll just read it to you: 35 touches, 5 tackles, 11 clearances, and 1 goal, 0.
Okay,
not bad for an underager playing his first VFL game against men. And obviously, exciting news across the week as well that he is officially committed to playing for Brisbane next year. So, lucky us. Obviously, that's caused a bit of a stir in amongst media and mostly Victorian media, but it is what it is. Suck it up.
All I can say is, fuck off. Like,
yeah,
it's like we've had 4 father-sons ever, basically, except for some really horrible ones. Because I was sort of saying, like, the only significant father-son we had before Ashcroft and Fletcher was Brownie.
Yeah.
It's been funny, actually, because I saw a lot of complaints from Carlton and Collingwood people.
Yeah. Cool, huh?
And I'm like, are you actually out of your mind? Like, I know your teams are doing quite poorly, but maybe it's like Camporeelli's, Dakai's.
And their captain, yeah, I know. Honestly,
it's like you get out of here, man. Like, oh shit, hey, It's insufferable. But so he's obviously pretty good, hey.
Yeah, he's a fairly handy footballer, so it'll be very exciting to see him run around, especially when he's wearing that number 10 next year as well. That's going to be great. Nice little bit of footy romanticism there as well.
Hey, I called that 2 years ago when Richie retired. I was like, keep that number free.
Yeah.
Because Ashcroft's already made 8 his own, so, which is kind of weird that the Dacos thing as well with the numbers, but unfortunately he didn't get any hit outs.
Yeah, weak.
Yeah, it's just a big fat 0 next to that one, but yeah, his interview was pretty good. So he fancies himself more as a mid forward, which completely, nips in the bud my whole like let's play him across half back because that's not his position. So shut up, me.
You never know. That's where some of the best players are starting off and working their way in the middle. So we'll see. Dev, obviously, another great game. Same with JL. Harry Sharp had a great game, 25 touches, 2 goals. But Will McLaughlin kicked a bag today, 5 goals, 1, which was obviously very, very exciting. 8 marks as well. So our top mid-season draft is put together a really... like his first really good game. He's been plugging away and playing decent football, but this is a very noticeable game for Will. So good for him. Other than that, not.
So you're using the modern term for bag being a handful.
I think 4 is a bag.
Really? I thought a bag's 10.
Jeez, no.
Or am I just trapped in the 80s?
Yeah, you must be.
where they were doing it all the fucking time, even though I was not even alive in the 80s. So,
I think 4 is the bare minimum for bag areas.
Right. Maybe I'm thinking of am I thinking of like cricket wickets or something? Like, I don't really watch much cricket, but
I think
who knows? Yeah. Someone can let us know in one of the comments what the cricket vernacular for 5 and 10 is.
Yeah.
I could probably just Google it, but it's more fun this way.
Well, if you get a fifer in cricket, you're doing all right. The Michelle.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people say that is. A lot of people say that's
Michelle
a cool.
Pfeiffer.
Yeah. All right. Let's. So for changes next week, it will be if Hipwood's fine, bring him in for Smith. If Payne's in, bring him in for Joyce. Pryor still, Answorth maybe. I mean, I'd be keen to see Answorth in again, but who's he come in for? Brain or Pryor?
Yeah, Brain kind of had a good and a bad game.
Yeah,
like there was some stuff where he didn't track very well, and Harris also kind of had a bit of a shit game too. So, it's a tough one. I think you're right with the two bigs, and then it's just a matter of like. I mean, we like Answorth.
We do, and he's been playing twos and been playing fine. It's just sort of like we probably need to settle on a fucking lineup now at round 22, round 23. So, I don't know.
It was kind of funny that it was mentioned sort of going in with 8 defenders. Someone in Discord popped in and was like, "Yeah, we've got like 8 defenders. It's a bit like weird."
Yeah.
And like difficult to change the game. Like Jackson Pryor's not changing a game when you bring him on as a sub.
No, he's not.
And I think he might even have gone onto a wing.
Yeah.
A la classic Pryor. Love that guy. Wing Pryor. Bring him back.
Did you see, I mean, Collingwood, Sydney, Collingwood put their sub on with what, like less than a minute on the clock?
Yeah, look, it's the most Collingwood thing they could possibly ever do. And it wouldn't have happened if they were at the MCG. That's all I'll say.
Of course not. Fucking.
What a fuckhead. Oh, dear. Craig McRae has like... I don't know. I liked Craig McRae, the player. And
we all did.
I don't know if I've told the story, but he gave me a pair of socks in 1996.
Nice.
Don't know where they are. Nice guy. I loved him. He was short. I was short. Played in the forward line. But something about him just comes across as so insincere.
Mm.
And like, it's almost like one of those things that once you see it, you go back and you look at all the other stuff and it kind of paints everything that he says.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like when he's riding high and it's all going well, he can just be like, oh, this is great and whatever. And if they lose a game, he's like, oh, they were great today, weren't they? The opposition and stuff. And then you sort of like, when things start to not go so well, he turns into a bit of a prick.
Yeah.
It kind of happened a little bit in the last sort of few rounds before finals last year. And then there were times where he got beaten pretty convincingly. He didn't mention the other team. But that MCG thing is like, A, it's not 50 meters. B, the same, like the worst thing happened against North Melbourne.
Yeah.
And you won that game. And it wasn't at the MCG. It was at North Melbourne's home ground. Plus also you played 9 of your last 10 games of the season at the MCG. So you were like admitting to your own advantage.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, are you like... Oh God! So someone said it quite interestingly. They said, and I don't know if you've actually ended up watching it, but like they said his Ted Lasso shtick has like fallen.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a good way of putting it, but he does not have the beautiful, pure heart of Ted Lasso. And I think it is just kind of hard because, you know, we talk about it and we talk about, like even last week, we talked about our Mount Rushmore of players and stuff like that. And it's kind of hard when there are a lot of players that not necessarily are on it, but are near there or thereabouts near it. And they don't really identify as Brisbane people anymore. they're all over the place because, like, you know, and fair enough, Dustin Martin retired, so McRae was going to talk about that at a time during the week too, and just said that, you know, talked about the premierships with that, and it's sort of like, are the ones that we as fans watched that significant for the players, or do they just kind of view it that that was their playing career and then their like coaching career is different and they're also significant? Because there are plenty of guys that just, yeah, I think leading into the grand final last week when Voss said that he was kind of happier for McRae than the Lions, I think I was a bit like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah. We also did Vossi pretty dirty, though, in 2013, so...
Yeah, but I feel like it's changed. That was sort of like this weird thing that no one was really on board with at the time. Everyone was a bit like, you realize this isn't how this works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's my little weird fucking bit for the time. So we have to play Craig McRae at the MCG this week.
We certainly do. Before we have a chat about that, though, let's get into some questions for Crisp Communications. crispcoms.co, giving you your free Brisbane Lions Fancast stickers at our website. Check that out at brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. It's all thanks to Abby and the team at Crisp Communications. All right, we've got questions that are sort of a bit of everywhere at the moment. So I will start with Luke, who didn't really have a question. He just said, what a shit show. Ziggy, who, and a big shout out to Ziggy. I've been having a sort of on and off chats with him through Instagram, and he's a big fan of the podcast. He says, the last few years we could have done without the lesson games in the latter half of the season, lesson in air quotes. This year, though, with the team being so radically different, do you think this lesson will be probably have come at the best time?
Hard to argue, but I still think it's that thing where if we'd lost one fewer game earlier on, this one would be fine.
Yeah.
It's just that we were fucking 2-5.
Yeah.
Like, why were we 2-5? Oh, yeah. No, probably learn a lot, but far out, we better learn it quickly, and we also better learn how to do like magic or something and curse Geelong.
Andrew, seeing as we always struggle with opposition small forwards, is there still a role for Noah this year?
Yes. I've changed my mind. Yes, there is, because that was well worded and well argued. But that said, I mean, it's yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously Stars takes the best small forward each week, and he kept Toby Green to 4 fucking touches this week, which is just outstanding. Yeah, I guess we touched on it just before. It's sort of if Noah's coming back into the team, it will come at the expense of Brain or Pryor at this stage. I don't necessarily know, because you'd have to think Pryor's out of contract at the end of the year. You'd have to think he's going to be looking elsewhere. So is he really? Is it worth persisting with? Is he the best for that position? He's obviously got a bit of height, but that Noah doesn't have. But I think Noah's still got the same sort of grunt, probably a bit quicker than Prez, and ball use is. Oh, Prez has probably got him on ball use, but only just. I think Noah's really worked on that. I think you're going to get non-negotiable effort from Noah compared to Prez.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to find out what the different in height they are, because I think it's not that dissimilar. Yeah, it's hard because it's like it wasn't really Brain or Pryor came on that went to Jones anyway. It was Wilmot that was kind of keeping an eye on him, I think, unless I've completely got it wrong. Have I?
Jackson Pryor's got 6 centimeters on Noah, so it's not like it's enough without being a huge.
Pryor's taller than I thought he was, and I like stood next to him last year, and he didn't seem that tall.
Yeah, he's
maybe he's grown.
He's more you meet.
People grow.
Yeah. They do. I mean, we're unashamed fans of Noah on this podcast, as I guess a lot of Lions fans are. Has he got a role in the team? Yeah, maybe. I think he's one of them. I'd put him ahead of McKenna now, anyway.
Yeah, I kind of forgot he existed, to be honest. Yeah, could be, I suppose, to answer the question.
All right, here's one from Nathan, and once again, we've already had a chat about it here. It says, question that I doubt you guys will know the answer to, so maybe just a statement. How the hell can Josh Dunkley be elite at pretty much all aspects of football except kicking?
Technique and working at it.
Nathan, you're probably right. We probably don't really have the answer to this one. He's just never been a good kick. And there's just players out there like Clayton Oliver's never been a good kick. Paddy Cripps has never been a good kick. But they've obviously got strengths elsewhere, and that's how they're elite level AFL players.
Cripps' kicking's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
So and similar sort of thing with Neil. Like Neil's chip kicking was always pretty good. Bit too Lewis Taylor for my liking.
Yeah.
But he's improved that out of sight this year. That's a little nugget of memory that everyone will no doubt have. There's Louis Taylor ones where you're always like, far out, that is close.
Yeah. No, I know exactly
the Dunkley one's frustrating because he's not the guy you want kicking the ball inside 50.
No.
Ever.
No, definitely not. You want to leave that to someone like
Ashcroft or Cluggage or Rayner or
Wilmot,
Pryor or Wilmot or Zorko or...
That Kadeen Coleman fellow was pretty good as well, if I remember.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, also Rev's a good kick inside 50, so...
Okay. Yeah. All right, well, we'll stay on that form. JC, time to think about what our finals team is now, as it should be settled with 2 rounds to go. And he's given us like a sort of 5 or 6 players here. Your calls on Smith, Bruce, Brain, Pryor, and McKenna. So we've already sort of touched on a few of those. Smith's an easy one. If Hipwood's injury free, Smith's out. Bruce, Brain, Pryor, McKenna.
Bruce might not play again. Stress fracture in the foot.
Well, it's the fib, so it was up his leg a little bit. They said he was missing 3 weeks, so he could be right for week 1 of finals, or maybe week 2.
You want to be absolutely cherry right with that.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of it is pain, but like, no pun intended. But just stress fractures and they just cause all sorts of issues. Like,
yeah.
So if he's good, yeah, but if he's not, no, can't do it.
I mean, do you have Bruce in our best 22, 23 going into finals?
Yeah.
Like, is he in our best team?
I think I just said that. Yeah.
Well, who do you take out?
Why I think you take Pryor out and have him as the sub.
Then it's sort of, I think, Brain v. Answorth. Because like McKenna, I'm just forgetting about McKenna. I don't have McKenna in our best team anymore.
We all kind of did.
So
I think it's sort of the 4, or like the structure's pretty much how it was in the best parts of early on in the season. Just we've got now Brain in instead of McKenna, and Ashcroft in instead of Bruce, and Bruce on the bench.
Yeah.
And I don't hate Bruce being on the bench because I think if he can impact the way like he did the week prior, using all the players' words as fucking link words at the moment. So I think it's pretty settled, and it's just you can only do what you can do. Like, I don't think we're electing to play Henry Smith on purpose.
No, I think
it's just sort of happened.
It's sort of like Bruce, Brain, Pryor, and Answorth. There's 4 players aiming for 2 spots there. It's a bit of a raffle at the moment, with one of them probably being the sub.
I prefer an attacking-minded sub more than a defensive-minded sub, to be perfectly honest, because like just defend normally, and if you need to change something, bring someone cool on, like Bruce.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That is cool.
I know that sounds really, really basic, but I just think that it kind of almost can translate to that.
All right. Mr. I thought Oscar had a down game compared to previous weeks. With his recent form, he should have dominated with no Briggs. And yes, 100%.
Yep.
As we said, it was probably the most disappointing aspect of that game, with no genuine ruckman for them, and Oscar having one of his poorer games.
Yeah, hopefully if we play him in finals and Briggs is there, Oscar just towels him up.
Hopefully.
Be the 3rd GWS ruckman he's played on or whatever. Or not play. Wrong way around. He missed the first game. It was annoying. Disappointing and a missed opportunity, I think.
James Barron, is Dara Joyce ready for primetime finals? And Michael has taken it upon himself to answer that with no fucking way.
I think, in a perfect world, no. But we're not in a perfect world, so...
Yeah.
if Payne is not there, he has to play.
Yeah, he does. And I thought, like I said, I thought he was okay. Definitely not his best, but I thought he was okay, and he'll be better for the run. Bill, was this the loss we had to have, or has the bubble burst?
Oh, the bubble's not burst.
Yeah,
But that doesn't necessarily mean that it was the loss that we had to have, because fuck going to Cardinia, although I will be able to go, so hopefully, unless I can't, like, it'll be at there or be the MCG.
probably there with the upgraded stands and everything. Yeah, I suppose we've already touched on it. Like, it was definitely a disappointing and frustrating loss, but certainly not as devastated as we could have been. Still a little bit buoyant, but yeah, the ramifications are obviously the pain in the ass on this one. So
Yeah.
I did say I wouldn't mind dropping a game into finals, so I mean, I got to own that. And we have now. So we'll see. If in the long run it means we're better for it, then fine, sure.
I just saw here that the AFL is entirely shameless, and they've been like, match review, AFL hands out $42,000 in fines. It's like,
Whoa.
you really could not just like even disguise it a little bit. Like, apparently there seems to be one hell of a melee in that Essendon Gold Coast game.
Yeah, then there was at halftime. Yeah.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, halftime. I think Mac Andrew sort of hit a jumper punch on a young fella, and it all just sort of went from there.
Also, good to know that Himmelberg got fined for striking Cam Rayner in a pivotal moment in the fourth quarter, where they went on to kick a goal from stoppage, and we should have had a free kick. That happens quite a lot, but I'm sure it happens to everybody, so I'm not going to Craig McRae that bad boy.
Wouldn't happen at the MCG, mate.
No.
That's it sort of for questions. Sean he's having a bit of a vent. Fuck me, any danger of a straight kick? Can Danaher at least pretend he wants to be there? Yeah, it's sort of like Danaher is... Like, if Danaher's out of it, we seem to be out of it, especially with Hipwood out of the equation. I thought,
I think it's also telling as well, like, Kyle Lemon's been wayward from his set shots in the past 4 weeks, which is a little bit not good.
Yeah.
Because he's normally a pretty straight shooter, or had been, at least to my mind. Yeah. So, what was your... And I know it's probably all been covered and it's all gone now, but how good was Mason Wood?
Yes. Yeah. That's, good on him for speaking up. And, I'd like to think that if it was Brisbane having that meeting, that, fans and people associated with the club would stand against it as well. If for some reason anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, it's this whole Taron Thomas thing. I can't see him playing AFL again. Like, St Kilda are in such desperate need of an A-grade midfielder that they've obviously met with Taron Thomas.
Selling their soul to the devil.
Yes.
Like,
and that was firmly and vehemently shut down straight away. So if they're not getting away with it, I don't think anyone.
No, it's in an industry and in a society where I think some of this, the violence against women stuff is really downplayed, and really, like, the good bloke card gets played a lot. And just to hear someone say, like, don't go near him.
Yeah.
Do not go near him was really refreshing. Because, some other people put some comparative stuff, the Wayne Carey stuff and things like that. And it's just like, these players get away with a lot of shit.
Yeah.
You can't get away with this shit.
Yeah. I'm glad that there has been a firm stand on Taron Thomas, because, the AFL and, the AFL community loves to give second chances. I mean, just look at Tyson Stengel, and he's like very much celebrated, even though he was just 2 weeks ago getting carried unconscious out of a nightclub. He was playing the next week. So they love...
Surprised he didn't have just hamstring awareness,
Yeah.
Like...
So, second chances are obviously a big thing, and we celebrate them when they pan out, but this guy's had, second chances, and enough's enough.
I think it's the chances with the entirely, like, the complete unwillingness to, like, retract.
Yeah.
Or do anything different. Like, it's almost shameless. So, yeah, I was very, very happy with the old Mason Wood.
Yep. Yeah.
Never really gave him too much thought almost ever, but good job him.
All right, we've got 2 games left. We've got Collingwood at the MCG coming up, and we all know what happened last time that game took place. Collingwood they're basically out of it, but if results go their way and they beat whoever's in front of them, they can still play final. So we need to, as we've said, we need to beat who's in front of us as well. So if we want to get that top 4, so we need to win this game. No Jordan to go, obviously, for them, who's out for the rest of the year. He had a pretty pivotal moment in the grand final last year as well, if I recall. They've
comment.
They've been obviously scratchy this year and haven't backed up their 2023 campaign, and at this stage are out of the 8. It's weird, like 6-7 weeks ago, it was looking very possible that the top 4 would be made up of Essendon, Collingwood, Carlton, like 3 huge powerhouse Victorian clubs, and now they're all outside of the 8, which is just goes to show what sort of a year this has been. But yeah, this is another crunch game, and one that we definitely need to win, and then Essendon to wrap things up at the last round at the Gabba Saturday night, with Joe Danaher's 200th on that night as well, which is going to be something special. So we've spoken about how Brisbane had enough motivation for every game leading up into the finals.
This one would surely be the one with the most motivation, right?
I thought the GWS game would have enough with the way they towed us up last time. Obviously we had Frog's 200th the week before. Darcy Wilmot's 50th doesn't bring the same amount of gravitas, but the way that GWS toyed with us last time, I thought that would have really burned into the memories a little bit more. Yeah, Collingwood at the MCG, obviously huge motivation to get one back on them, and Joe's 200th against the old mob to finish the season.
I think on the back of the GWS loss will provide the extra incentive, I think, on top of all the extra insatiable incentives. So, hopefully, it was interesting listening this week for the miserly amount that I did to your mate Hoyne, with him talking about the get it done games.
Oh yeah.
And he pinned this one. I think this Collingwood one, he's just got to get it done.
Yeah. And then,
funnily enough, he didn't say the GWS one was. He said that's just a game against 2 good teams.
Yeah.
It's not a get it. And I know it was essentially get it done for what we want.
Yeah.
But it wasn't one of those ones where it's just like, if you lose, you're a bunch of peanuts. Even though we lost and we're a bunch of peanuts because we shouldn't have lost. So looking forward to this one.
Yeah, very much
Saturday
so.
days?
I think it's a 4:30. I think it's a Saturday twilight, if I remember correctly.
Pretty. All right, cool.
Lovely. Hopefully you get a big crowd at that one, you'd have to think. I mean, Melbourne fans would surely put all the scars behind and go back to the MCG to watch a Brisbane Collingwood match.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and get there.
Oh, beauty.
I haven't been able to get to many this year, but I'm trying to get... I mean, there haven't really been many down here. But I'll try and do my best to get to that one because... it's pretty important. Obviously,
McStay's back for them. There's a chance Jack Payne will be back, but probably more likely the following week. So I think without Mycheck and McStay being the sole key forward, I don't mind a Darragh Joyce, Ryan Lester, Harris Andrews backline for this one to be perfectly fair.
I'd sooner push if Payne's on the cusp this week. I'd sooner just drag him back 1 week and just give him a run against Essendon, and then you got the bye before finals and that sort of a thing. So, I agree with you there.
Yeah, and it's sort of... Leicester will probably take Elliott. Stas will go to Bobby Hill, and he'll obviously want to win that matchup. Whoever's on Bobby Hill is going to want to win that matchup. And then you've got players like Hoskin Elliott and stuff that will float through, and Crisp and the Dacos boys obviously float through and hit the scoreboard as well. And midfield, very different. Obviously, no Jordan De Goey. Tom Mitchell's out as well. Pendlebury, Sidebottom will still be thereabouts.
Sidebottom almost had one of his career best games. Yeah. On Friday, keeping Errol Goulden super quiet, and then Goulden popped up right at the end. So it was sort of the best game that was ultimately pointless. So
I think this will be a big game for our midfield because they don't often get smacked around 2 games in a row, and they definitely had their colours lowered against the Giants. And Fags mentioned in his press conference that the midfield group had already said to Fags, hey, we buggered that one up. So I think they'll have a big say on the game this Saturday.
How concise was that press conference?
Yeah.
It was like in and out 5 minutes. He covered everything like super succinctly, just being like, this is what happened. This is where it went wrong. Any questions? And everyone was like, nah, we're good. Except for that one guy that sounds like he's a bit of a loose cannon on the interviews. Like he kind of strikes me as almost like an ex-rugby league guy.
Yeah.
He's got a real funny voice. I don't know who he is, but he asks some pretty strange questions sometimes, and I like it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
I know the fellow you're talking about. The guy with the husky voice that always says,
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah, he sounds like he's been in a scrum or two in his time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know exactly the guy you're talking about. So, I think that'll be a big one for the midfield. And they've obviously got Mason Cox back at the moment, and Darcy Cameron, who is having a really good year as a ruckman as well. So, would probably be in the All-Australian calculations as well, thereabouts. So, Mason Cox, I don't know, he seems to do something to that team. He's always good for at least a goal as well when he floats forward. So,
hopefully he does the old this bad boy,
the
ultimate curse.
It's so like I tread the line of really liking Mason Cox because I've interviewed him a couple of times and he's a really nice guy, and he does a lot of charity work and stuff, but then he's got that American loves smack talking and just like ruffling feathers and just that arrogance as well. So that shit drives me insane, but I guess you need those characters as well.
I love the smack talk. I don't like Mason Cox, but we're opposite sides of the coin here. I'm like, yeah, more smack talk, more bravado. It's funny.
Yeah.
Unless it's against us or someone that I like, in which case they can go and get fucked. So I'm here for the double standards. But yeah, it's obviously it's a grand final rematch that won't look all that much like a grand final rematch. It's sort of,
no, I mean, it'll be
the bones are there, but not like the full fleshy lungs and organs and stuff.
I mean, both teams will be fairly different to the ones that took the park last September. And it's weird, the last time we played Collingwood, obviously we were both 0-3. Well, we were 0-2, they were 0-3. And that's when Collingwood really ramped up the pressure and got on a bit of a run. Left us languishing. Yeah. So, got to get the win this week, restore some faith, get back in and stay in touch with the top four. So it's that easy.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's just we've got to win the two games. Otherwise, we're going to be languishing in the shit pit underneath, which is the proto wildcard spots, some might say.
Yeah, that's right.
A bit of a segue there, but a couple of questions just generally about sort of the state of the AFL and that sort of a thing. They seem to be really going heavily towards like an American model.
Yeah.
Like heavily towards an American model. I even read some article about like, football might be the main event, but it's not the only event. Here's the modern ways stadiums work.
Yeah.
And your augmented reality and your this shit. And it's like, you know what else has like pretty high crowds and no nonsense, no fuck around? European football. And there's people there all the time in like Germany and Italy, and they don't have like crazy Americanized nonsense. But maybe I'm just old and fickle and boring. But I want less seizures in my life, to be perfectly frank.
No, I'm with you. And for some reason, we just look to American sports as the paradigm of being, what sport should be about. And it's not for me, but I suppose it's for the generation under us that do require that stuff to enjoy sport, because otherwise you're going to end up with NFL, and NFL is one of the worst spectator sports I can imagine, like stopping every 5 minutes for an ad break, and it's just so stop-start, and I just don't want that for our sport. And but it seems to be the way.
The thing for me is like, is there any really other, like, are there any sort of super iconic like stadiums in America? I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
But not like, but there's some like, the Georgia Dome. I know that one from an Outkast song. Look at me, fellow kids. But it's like the MCG is like a historic stadium.
Yeah.
It's like, it's up there with like, and I know Wembley got redone, but it's like Wembley, and then you look at like Stade de France where they're doing the Olympics at the moment, and like the San Siro and the Nou Camp. It's like these places are like they've got tangible. It's like the air's different.
Yeah.
But like Las Vegas Stadium, does it really have like a feel to it? Surely it can't. Like in the same way that Marvel feels friggin' weird to go to.
Yeah.
Marvel still feels weird. It doesn't feel like it's a football stadium. It feels like a place that people go to play football, which some might say is the same thing, but there's a distinct difference there. And if you've been, you know.
Yeah, it's
and if
just,
you haven't,
it's a
you're
bit
not sure.
It's a bit soulless, isn't it, Marvel?
It's just, it feels like you're going to the theater.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Like the lights are dimmed. There's sort of weird acoustics.
Yeah.
And then you get that thing where you go and see a film at twilight and you come out and it's like nighttime and you're all wigged out because you're like 14 years old and you don't understand how time works, which 14 is a bit late to be learning that, but here we are. But yeah, I just don't like this idea that the AFL are kind of pushing these things that people are like, can you stop doing that? Like fix holding the ball. Don't add in wild card rounds because... yeah, historically, 5 to 8 are the wild card positions.
Yeah.
Have some self-respect. Like, I can see it if, like, let's say when Tasmania comes in and or a 20th team, there's a perfect opportunity to play 19 games in the season and have, like, a extended sort of end thing, but it would require an entire revamp because you can't just arbitrarily go, we play 19 games and then we'll play 5 more. Like that's not really how it works. I mean, it's how they're doing it now, but yeah, I don't know. Help.
Mate, I haven't got the answers as much as I wish I did. I haven't got them.
Help. Oh dear. So Collingwood in a week on Saturday. Oh joy. Got to fucking kill them, eh?
Yeah, I'd like very similar to the last 2 times we played them in the home and away season last year where we ended up winning by 6-7 goals. One of those would be really good.
It would be really good. It'd be great to humiliate them.
It would be, and then to do the same to Essendon.
Because I think there's a bit of Ray Wenge kind of stirring for that, and kind of like the idea of a bit of revenge.
Yeah, I think I'm going to put Lachie Neale to have a big game.
Yeah, well, they don't really have anyone to run with him, do they?
I don't believe so.
Like, because Tom Mitchell did like one hell of a job in the grand final after being absolutely schooled in round 21 or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's Tom Mitchell. He's up there with worst brown medalists, I reckon. Him and Cooney, horrible.
Woewode and Pritis, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, poor Pritis though. Pritis just for like preservation's sake was all right.
Yeah.
Plus, I used to think his name was Printers for like 15 years.
All right, well, that'll wrap things up for the Brisbane Lions fancast for another week. 4:30 Saturday, MCG taking on the Collingwood Magpies in our second to last game of the home and away season and trying to keep our top 4 hopes alive. Let's see if we can bloody get it done.
Trust them, they'll get it done.